Hey guys, it's Pineapple, and today we're going to talk about even more top 5 unsolved mysteries in My Hero Academia. You guys hit the like goal on the last video as well as the comment goal, so we're going to do it because you guys clearly asked for it. And with that said, yeah, we're going to start with our bonus question because you know how we like to do these. We always start off with a bonus question specifically for you guys, the viewers. Today's bonus question is going to be, will Mineta ever truly find love, right? Like, or is he doomed to be forever alone? That's going to kind of be my question for this week, right? And I guess a bonus question to the bonus question, because we like to do those too, is if he finds love, what do you think she would be like, or what do you think the person would be like? Let's not instantly assume based off of, you know, how Mineta's been acting so far. And how long do you think it would take for Mineta to find love? You know, how long do you think it would take for him to kind of calm down or find someone that can accept him for who he truly is, right? And if you don't think Mineta is ever going to truly find love, do you think that is the beginning of his true villain origin story, right? Do you think he's just going to lose it at some point and go, and truly become one of the most evil villains on the planet? What do you think is going to go on with Mineta, pretty much, is my question to you. Do you think he's going to go insane from the loneliness, or do you think he eventually is going to find somebody that kind of understands him for who he is and fits kind of what he's looking for? So with that said, let's get started with another top 5 unsolved mysteries or unanswered questions left in My Hero Academia after that intro. Hit it! So the first question that we have this week is going to be, will we get a time skip where we see our characters as pro heroes before the series ends, right? So that is definitely a very, very big question left up in the air in My Hero Academia. Ultimately, we're really not going to know whether or not, like, that question is going to be answered until the very, very end, right? We could likely be waiting until the last chapter, or what seems like the last chapter, to know whether or not we're going to see a time skip where, you know, we see them as pro heroes. Because a lot of people, myself included, think that the series is ending in true fashion, like later this year, right? Or at the very, very latest, early next year, right? Like Horikoshi said that he has another year of story left to tell. Some people think, you know, maybe he'll take longer. I myself think maybe it'll be a little shorter. You know, maybe he's kind of speeding his way towards that 1 year worth of content. So I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see, like, how much content ended up being left ever since that statement was said. I believe that statement came out in December of 2021, right? So that means at the very, very least, we can expect My Hero Academia to still be going on by December of 2022. Maybe, right, if he was like very sure about 12 months specifically, but I really think that it's going to be maybe a little before that or maybe a little after that, with me kind of leaning towards maybe a little before that, right? I do think he's going to be able to wrap it up a little faster than he thinks. What do you think, right? Do you think we're going to get a time skip at the end of My Hero Academia? Maybe even like if we don't continue the series, you know, to get like a part 2, do you think before the ending in the last couple chapters we'll maybe see them as adults or maybe see them as pro heroes to kind of wrap up their story? Or do you think the story of My Hero Academia is going to end with them still being in school, right? Them effectively, if not still being in school because UA is gone or something like that, them pretty much just being the same age they are right now, right? Like, we're not going to jump forward a bunch of years to see them graduate or anything. What do you think is going to happen? And my bigger question, I guess, for you guys, the audience, relating to this question is, if we do see them as pro heroes, right, or as adults, and even if we don't, I guess, what do you think the pro hero rankings are going to be? Let's say like 10 years in the future of My Hero Academia, or 5-8 years in the future of My Hero Academia. Where do you think our characters are going to rank on the hero ranking, keeping in mind that there are other schools and other people that are naturally going to, you know, kind of get onto that top 10 list? It can't all just be class 1A characters. Who do you think is going to be in that top 10 hero list after everything is said and done in My Hero Academia, right? Let me know in the comment section below. I really, really, really want to see the answers to this question specifically. So please, after you're done answering the villain Mineta kind of question, I want you to answer the question of what you think the hero rankings will be in My Hero Academia at the end of the series, or after the end of the series, depending on how the series ends. Moving on to mystery number 2 for this video, we have, will Deku keep One for All at the end of the series, or will he either lose it or pass it on at the very end, despite his warning from the previous users? Maybe once it's completed, it'll be safer to pass on. Now, I appreciate that submitted question, and yeah, that is a very, very interesting question to ask, right? We know to a certain extent it's not likely that Deku is going to be passing on One for All to anyone else, just because the vestiges seem to make it seem like, all right, this thing has gotten way too powerful and way too dangerous. Like, you're seeing that even in yourself, right? Where you're trying to come into your own in this ability, and your body is barely able to handle it at the level that you're at. So imagine getting this power when you were even younger, or like, you know, like imagine somehow this power fuses with your body and then you pass it on to your son, and then he's born with this massively powerful quirk that injures him, but it's so much worse. Like, anything could happen. I feel like after One for All reach the point of singularity, you know, and anything can kind of happen. One of the things I don't think we'll see is Deku passing on the quirk to anyone else. I think he will pass his story on. I definitely do think that the narration in My Hero Academia of Deku kind of telling the story of My Hero is to a certain extent him talking to someone else, right? Like him telling someone else's story, or maybe him, Bakugo, and like a couple other people telling the story to the, I know the popular theory is the next holder of One for All, right? But that kind of has gotten a little less likely. The Vestiges told Deku that, yeah, no, this is a very dangerous quirk. You probably shouldn't pass it on. You are going to be the last holder. So that kind of just leaves a question of like, whether or not Deku is going to keep One for All, right, by the end of the series, or whether he's going to be put in a situation, I guess, where he has to get rid of it, or it's just destroyed, or like in the process of getting rid of Shigaraki and getting rid of All for One, that he's going to have to sacrifice the quirk in some way, right? You know, we have a theory that he's going to have to sacrifice One for All in order to like get rid, like all the Vestiges are pretty much going to fight against all the All for One quirk users inside of Shigaraki to have that kind of death battle that Star and Stripe had, where eventually she was destroyed, right? I think the Vestiges can be destroyed in a very, very similar way as Star and Stripes. So I do think in a roundabout way, Deku is going to lose One for All, but we'll see. We'll really see where that goes as the story goes on, but we're kind of nearing the end, and yeah, it's starting to get to the time where we have to ask those questions of whether or not Deku is going to keep One for All by the end of the series. So prepare to answer that question. You guys let me know what your thoughts are on that question, but that is one of the bigger unsolved mysteries that we have left in the series. It's what is going to happen to Deku by the end of the series. Is he going to be able to keep One for All and continue being a pro hero and kind of lead, you know, the nation forward and become the #1 hero and the greatest hero and all that stuff? Or is he going to lose One for All and become the greatest hero along with the rest of his class members for the stuff that's happening right now in this arc, right? And for their contributions to society, to getting it all back on one track, like we've kind of seen being set up in this last arc. Mystery number 3 is going to be a big one. I know it's another big question that we have in the series and in the fandom, so we're hitting you guys, the heavy hitters in this video. Will All Might survive the plot of My Hero Academia? And alternatively, which would be better, right? Him dying or him living? Now, All Might is in a very, very kind of precarious situation here, right? Because we know All Might is kind of in like, he's kind of in a place where he's controlling UA to a certain extent and like helping Tsukauchi and like all these people that have failed taking down All for One before and doing all these various things. But that kind of reminds me of Ino's dad and Shikamaru's dad being in that base to the side, right? Like thinking they were safe from the Ten Tails, and then the Ten Tails did something to just like to get rid of them, pretty much, right? Like it shot a beam over there and it destroyed that whole entire location before they could even think about like trying to get out. So I wonder if we're gonna see something like that with All Might, right? Like if All Might is somewhere deep within UA, it's possible Shigaraki gets rid of All Might, right? Like by decaying the whole UA base, which we know right now is he can't do that at the moment because Aizawa's looking at him, and obviously, you know, Monoma's looking at him too. But like if there's a situation where he's able to activate Decay for a split second through all those hands, I do think that runs the risk of All Might, who might potentially be in that base, being decayed alongside Tsukauchi, right? And having to give us one of those like, hey, there's nothing we can do to save ourselves. We're surrounded and death is incoming, right? But like, can we do anything in these last moments to make sure, to ensure victory for Deku and for the students and everything? Can I stay alive for a little longer to do something else that could kind of guide us to victory, right? And I definitely think that is possibly where All Might's story is going. I don't know 100% obviously because I'm not Hori or his editor, but I do feel like All Might is going to die before the end of the story. But we've all felt that way for a long time. Some people feel like he should have died in Kamino, right? So like, now you have this situation where All Might dying inside UA, you know, to a wave of decay when he's not next to Deku, or he's just able to talk to Deku on the phone or something. I don't know. I'm not really the hugest fan of that conclusion, I feel like. But also, I could see it. I could definitely see it, right? Like, I could definitely see with this current Hori that we have, him going in that direction of All Might being wiped away by a wave of decay, right? And rubble and everything, and that being a gruesome death in and of itself, especially with the way that him and Tsukauchi talk to each other right at the beginning of this operation, where they're like, hey, we failed all these times before, now's our last chance to really do this. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of death flaggy to me. So I'm concerned about All Might and whether or not he's going to survive the plot of My Hero Academia. And I do think, I used to think that it was like definitely a better thing, right? If he didn't survive, like, this is beneficial to the story. You have to have All Might die. But lately and more, I've kind of been feeling like it would be really, really interesting if All Might survives, right? That you have all these stories, every hero's origin story involves their sensei dying or their master dying. Someone important to them has to go, you know what I mean? Kind of from that tragedy is what really ties them together as a hero, right? It's the thing that they remember, like, I have this thing, great power comes great responsibility, Martha, like all these various things that it keeps them grounded, right? And in Deku's story, I feel like he was already the kind of person that could have been an amazing hero. He just needed to learn, like, physically how to go through that, and like he did have to learn more about the world and stuff like that, but like he's always kind of been that natural born hero kind of mentality character. And I feel like you don't have to kill All Might to have Deku kind of reach that top point that he has to reach as a character, right? I feel like it would be more interesting to a certain extent if this is the one story where the hero manages to even save his master. You know what I mean? That Deku is such an amazing hero that he even managed to save his master, who was powerless, right? Like, who was completely powerless to do anything to stop himself from being destroyed by that villain, right? So I think that would be interesting now that Deku's kind of reached this point where he is extremely capable. But I don't know. I don't know if I would take that over All Might being a puddle. So that kind of is a question I'm leaving to you guys. Would you guys rather see All Might as a puddle under a bunch of rubble? Or do you think it would be better if All Might survived the plot of My Hero Academia, right? I really want to know. So let me know in the comment section below what you think. Will All Might survive, or will All Might not make it through My Hero Academia? And which is better? The second to last unsolved mystery in this video of top 5 is going to be regarding Chisaki and Lady Nagant, right? If you know my channel, earlier this week, I did a video about what I think the role of Chisaki and Lady Nagant is going to be moving forward in the future of My Hero Academia. And although clearly I have an opinion of what's going to happen, right, go watch that video, or I'm probably going to cover it in a second here because I can't really keep myself from recapping it a little bit. Pretty much my question is, what role do you think Chisaki or Lady Nagant could possibly serve moving forward in the story of My Hero Academia, and do you think that they're going to come back, right? I know in one of the first videos in the series we talked about whether or not the gentle criminal is going to come back, or, you know, I guess the gentle hero, hopefully. So I kind of want to repeat that question for Overhaul and Lady Nagant, right? Or Nagant, right? Where it's like Nagant was clearly injured, but set up to kind of have like a possible return in the future if she's able to heal up. Chisaki has no real purpose in the story anymore besides to maybe create some quirk erasing bullets. So you have this bullet creator and this sniper. You paired them together in the prison break arc. They've kind of been tied to each other at this point. So now is it possible in any way for them to work together to undermine All for One in the future, right? And I guess that is my biggest opinion about what could possibly happen with the two of those characters in the future. But again, whether or not they're even going to have any presence in the future of the story is a mystery in and of itself, right? Because it seems like they were set up to have some presence in the future of the story, in my opinion at least, but like we haven't really seen them come back in any sort of major way, or seen any hints that the heroes are planning on making use of Chisaki or Lady Nagant, right? Or any kind of hints that like they're anywhere around or involved in this operation at all. But to be fair, we still do potentially have an entire battlefield that we don't know what is going on at with Spinner and everything. So I do think the jury is out on whether or not they're going to be actively a part of this final war arc, or whether or not Lady Nagant is healed enough to even do anything, right? But I do think it's possible that Lady Nagant is going to end up hitting All for One with a quirk erasing bullet, right? And I guess that kind of brings me to part B of this question, or this mystery. Why didn't All for One take Overhaul's quirk? That has been a big question on Twitter lately. People asking that question about, this doesn't really make any sense, that if he didn't take Overhaul's quirk, why? It's like one of the most useful quirks ever. He could pretty much do whatever he wanted to his body and fix it or do anything. That is very valid, right? And my instant defense to that was maybe he wouldn't know how to use Overhaul's quirk, really. It's a very, very complicated quirk. But I think that All for One, to a certain extent, does get information on how to use a quirk when he gets a quirk. You know what I mean? I think that is part of his kit, as far as we know. How it's kind of like how Monoma, when he copies a quirk, he gets certain information about how to use the quirk and how it should be used. I do think that has to be built into quirks of that nature. So All for One likely has that and would likely know how to use Overhaul if he did take it. So that is kind of a bigger question. Like, why did All for One allow Overhaul to keep his quirk? Was it just him being like, I don't need this, we're already doing whatever, you know, I've already got everything handled? Or was it just like a mess up from Hori to a certain extent, right? Because I thought if All for One took Overhaul's quirk, he could just fuse with Shigaraki, right? And kind of like get that all said and done and have a perfect body and have two versions of All for One in the same body. How busted would that be? Like, you're starting to do really, really crazy stuff, really, really nuts stuff. Like, kind of going past the realm of science at that point, right? So I thought that would be something that he would likely do, but we do see that Overhaul ended up getting away and likely still has his quirk and is just unable to use it. So did All For One take Overhaul's quirk? I don't think we know for sure, but it's likely that he hasn't. We haven't seen that happen. And if he didn't, why didn't he take Overhaul's quirk, right? That's kind of like a question that's been bugging a lot of the fandom for a while lately. Like, why? That's weird. Take the quirk. It makes perfect sense. You could do a lot with that, actually. You could go break out Makia and fuse with him if you wanted to. Like, do whatever you want. And the final question that I have, and the final unsolved mystery that's left in the series of My Hero Academia, in this video at least, is going to be, why does Inko look so much like Nana Shimura, right? Like, is it a coincidence that All Might has only seen plus-size Inko? Or is it a very purposeful decision by Horikoshi to change Inko's weight in the time between when Deku was young and when Deku was older, so that by the time that All Might was in the picture, it'd be harder for him to see the parallels in the appearance between Inko and Nana? Because when he meets her earlier on in the series, he notices the hairstyle connection, right? That they have a very, very similar hairstyle. But is there a deeper connection there? Like, is it possible that Inko is related to Nana? Maybe she's a niece or a grandniece, or, you know, kind of like in the family somewhere. Maybe she was related to, maybe Nana had a sister, or like, you know, a niece or a nephew, or someone that is just in that family line. Because also the hints are there that Inko has a very, very similar quirk to Nana's, right? Nana is able to pretty much float her body and have omnidirectional movement, whereas Inko is able to float things closer to her. So you can kind of see how that would be related to a certain extent. If Endeavor has a fire quirk, Shoto has a fire quirk, you know, Dabi has a fire quirk, but maybe they're all slightly different fire quirks. Or like how Bakugo's parents, both of their quirks come together to pretty much make what is Explosion, right? What if it's an offshoot of the same quirk to a certain extent, right? So like, what if Nana and Inko really, really are related? And that does have deeper implications for certain theories and certain stuff going on in the world of My Hero Academia. But yeah, like, is Inko's weight gain? I think the in-universe reason is that she felt guilty over not being able to tell Deku that he can be a hero, right? Or like Deku not having a quirk and all that stuff. I think that is the in-universe reason, but I don't remember where I got that from, so maybe I just made that up. But the out-of-universe reason, the reason that I like to build a lot of theories on, the narrative reason, it's not just like a quick decision where Horikoshi was like, and then I'm gonna make Inko fat because she's guilty. And that's all that has to do with anything. No, I think it's a very, very purposeful decision to have Inko look different enough and unrecognizable enough to All Might to make a comparison between her and Nana, right? And I do think that was very, very purposeful and very, very slick by Hori, especially giving us her using the little floating quirk early on in the series, in the very, very first chapter, in the very, very first episode, and then waiting so long to reveal Nana's quirk being float, right? And not kind of giving that to us right away. So it'd be harder to draw that comparison between the two of them because we got that information so far apart, right? So that is my kind of tinfoil hat theory for this video in question. Do you think Nana and Inko are related? And if not, why does Inko look so much like Nana? She has a very, very similar hairstyle, very, very similar quirk. Is she just a fangirl of, you know, that hero from those times? Who knows? But I do think that Nana and Inko have some sort of relation, and I do think that kind of ties in to All For One and maybe what his reason would be in choosing Inko specifically, right? And kind of that coincidence of him being, well, you already know what I'm going to say. So that is the end of this video of top 5 unsolved mysteries of My Hero Academia. Even more top 5 unsolved mysteries of My Hero Academia. If you guys want to see another part, because we do have another part ready, you can let me know by getting 600 likes in this video. I'm going to raise it a little bit. 600 likes in this video and 120 comments. So if you get 120 comments and 600 likes, you'll see the next part magically appear in your sub box, as long as you're subscribed, which I hope you are, because, you know, we have a lot of new viewers on the channel this month. And yeah, please subscribe. Please support the channel in any way that you can. I love you guys. Thank you for the support on the video yesterday. I really, really appreciated that in the spoiler video. We're going to talk more about the chapter as, you know, the official version and everything comes out over the weekend. So look forward to that. More Dabi and more Shoto talk, more mysteries. I'll see you guys later. It's Pineapple. Peace.